In this lesson, I want to explore the options for configuring self-service. This is an introduction to the topic, as this is more fully discussed in the developer level training available elsewhere on the community. The screen shows the default example self-service site that can be installed along with an instance of Sage CRM. Self-service enables the enhancement of a corporate website to allow customers to access and request services and support over the web directly into Sage CRM. All of the key features of Sage CRM can be integrated with the corporate website. And Sage CRM provides a set of APIs to allow self-service to be included in just about any corporate website that needs to expose CRM data. This means that powerful web-based sales, marketing and customer support solutions can be enabled, and corporate websites can capture new data straight into Sage CRM entities, including custom and new entities. Because it's created using an API, how much or how little data is exposed or captured is entirely up to the self-service implementation. Self-service uses features that are familiar to experienced Sage CRM developers. So self-service uses objects and methods and properties straight out of the core APIs. These are API objects which are already used within the internal scripting for business rules in create scripts, table level scripts, etc., as well as inside classic ASP pages. And this offers great flexibility so that you can code in any way that you need. And although the code defines exactly what you want, you have to define the different levels of access that are needed, because you're in control of the business rules for your site, and that includes actually controlling the access levels to different screens and data. So it's very, very open and flexible in what you do, but that also creates a set of considerations that you have to do a lot more thinking about aspects of security. Now, self-service does provide an authentication mechanism by which a customer can visit the corporate website. They can log on by providing credentials and be authenticated. Now here you can see that it's Gareth McDade, a contact within the company Eurolandia, that has logged on and is reviewing the customer service requests that they've previously raised inside CRM. Now, self-service is focused on visitors coming to a site rather than users, and there is an important distinction. So a user is someone who logs on into CRM using the familiar CRM interface, and they represent a paid license seat, and they're held within the system as a record within the user table. A visitor, on the other hand, is somebody who accesses CRM via the self-service website, and they're represented within the CRM database within the person table. So they are the subject, if you like. They're part of the application data that a user would be looking at, but they are still nevertheless actors on the system. And contacts, either companies or individual persons, need to be enabled to access self-service. So you can see here that I'm looking at the self-service tab within the context of a particular person, Gareth McDade, and we'll look at enabling a little bit later. Now, this diagram shows just one example of how self-service can be implemented. You can see that this clearly implies that the self-service site exists beyond the corporate firewall. Now, it's important to realize that self-service does not have a separate install mechanism. The self-service API object and the registration of the object takes place within the main installation program of Sage CRM itself. You can only install and register the eWare self-service object, and that's the name of it, is the eWare self-service object, by installing a copy of CRM which has had self-service enabled within its license. This means that on a machine that you want to use for self-service, that you will need to install a copy of Sage CRM with a license that includes self-service. Now, the self-service database contains some tables, visitor and visitor profile, which holds the information about the visitors to access the self-service pages. The self-service database and those tables can sit on an entirely different SQL server to the main Sage CRM database, which holds the application and metadata. The system administration documentation discusses that the self-service install and the main system can be on different servers. Where the self-service sits on a different server from the main CRM server, this will require careful change control management. You'll have to think about the patching of servers. The self-service server, as a secondary instance of Sage CRM, would have to be patched as any install of Sage CRM. This would not be an automatic process. Patches to the self-service server would have to be manually coincidental with the patching of the main application server. So you'd have to do it very soon after the main server is patched, or as part of the overall patch process. As for metadata, well, the metadata for the definitions of the lists and screens referenced by the self-service install reside on the main server. Metadata is only loaded on the initial instantiation of the self-service object. This means that the separate self-service install will not pick up changes to metadata definitions of screens and lists used by self-service unless metadata is manually refreshed on the self-service instance, or if the self-service instance is restarted. And one thing that it's difficult to be precise on within a particular centrally run training class is that licensing considerations are a commercial matter for local Sage operating companies. So licensing is a responsibility for Sage North America, or it's a responsibility for Sage Asia. So whether a particular architecture that you want to use is applicable for a particular customer would need to be discussed with your own local Sage team. We've looked at one example of the self-service implementation. We can see that we can have self-service separated out onto different servers, and we can understand that there are some very disciplined approaches that we must take to ensure the integrity of the system as patching and as changes and customizations take place.